Good afternoon to everybody who's watching. Thank you for joining us here at WeGo's first Smart City Driver workshop. This is going to be a series of 3. And we're starting with how to submit your project through the Activator. We'll go through exactly how to do that with a couple of cities that are working with us on this. But I want to start with an opening remark by our Secretary General, Mr. Kyung-yeol Lee.
Thank you very much. Do you hear me well? Okay.
Yes, we do hear you well.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. I hope everyone's safe and healthy and happy. Well, Corona situation forced us to move to a virtual space compared to what we did in the past. Last year, year before, the activities now seem to be dull and uninteresting. But as a matter of fact, a lot of important things are happening. We're moving in virtual landscape to prepare a big leap in the reality. As you might be able to guess what I'm implying, we launched 2 important online programs this year, right after a Corona outbreak. One is called WeGO Smart Health Responder. The other is a Smart City Driver. Health Responder is a platform where we discuss and share the ways to make our citizens healthier. And the driver is a guideline and a tool to assist you to design and implement your ideal smart city, whose first webinar we are having today. We have 2 specific cases from the perspective of the driver. One is Kawaian City's project on virtual digital twin programs in which WeGo is engaged. And the other is Kampala City's smart parking project. Also, WeGo is engaged. And my special thanks to go to, first of all, Mayor D of Kawaian City, who is joining us live. And also, I thank you, Mr. Secretariat from Kampala City for joining us live. And well, probably, as I said before, because of the postponement and cancellation of our General Assembly in September and postponement to the next year, but we are preparing for online Moscow XCOM in November. So I'll probably be looking forward to seeing you there again. Well, currently we are utilizing a driver program to come up with smart city solution packages. But when the virus is gone, we are going for our implementation stage. I'm not simply talking about feasibility study. I'm talking about the whole solution packages. Having said that, thank you again. And I wish you stay safe and healthy. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that message, Secretary General Lee. So now let's go right into the Activator. I'm going to spend the next few minutes to introduce all of you who are joining the call today to get a good sense of what this Activator is as part of the driver itself. So as you may know by now, the driver is kind of an overarching framework that we are having to help cities implement projects at different stages. But we're going to look at the actual system that you would go through. So obviously, the first step is to register for an account, but just to look at the different components, let's start with a video that we can show you. You can watch this on YouTube anytime. In addition to the video, while our colleagues are loading this, you can also go to our website and we have different tutorial videos on different aspects of the Activator. Once you get a better sense of the whole system, then you can actually look into the different components and make sure that you have clarity on how to use each one of them. They all have their different functions.
What does your city do for you? As a citizen, do you have easy access to clean water and air? Are there convenient ways to commute? Can you count on help in cases of emergency? With rapid urbanization, cities increasingly rely on smart and sustainable solutions to improve the quality of life for the citizens. And for the most advanced cities, the power of smart tech has transformed the ability to do so. The solutions available are endless, but for many cities, they may be too expensive, complicated, or otherwise inaccessible. So where does your city even begin? How great would it be if there were a guide to help you choose, customize, and even finance the ones right for your city? We're with you. And that's why we've developed the WeGO Smart City Driver. Get started with the Activator, our online interactive platform where cities can share their challenges and diagnose their needs. In Activator, you can unlock key insights on the successes and failures of smart city projects around the world to find the best ways to approach your city's own projects. Once you've identified your needs, you can access customized solution packages through the Solution Finder. WeGO works closely with a range of solution providers and partners, which it selectively matchmakes with your city to deploy its projects. Our project implementer further supports cities with funding to jointly carry out feasibility studies and pilot projects that lead to citywide implementation. Smart and sustainable solutions are not out of reach. Sign up today for an Activator account and get started on your city's transformation with WeGO.
So that was an overview of the whole thing itself. When you have an account with the Activator, you will log in and this is what you will see. This is essentially your dashboard. You can change information about your organization and so on. But we're going to start with the top. On the right side, you can see the first icon, and that is the dashboard. We're going to go under the dashboard where you can, where there is a drop-down menu, and we're just logging in again. Under the drop-down menu, you're going to see a lot of different applications that you can apply for. As you know, WeGO has many different things that you can apply for. The project implementer is one of them, as you just saw in the video. That's one of the core pieces of our driver. So let's just go into that. When you click that, you can start your application. In this case, continue. So if you start one, you can always come back and you can always go through wherever you left off. And here you can see an explanation about that. And then on the right side, you can see where you are in the process. So 21 questions in total with this project implementer form. You start out by filling out different information about your city. So just the basic information about population and GDP and so on. And then when you click next, you go into the main contact point. Now, always, whenever you have a project proposal, you're going to propose it with a team that you will be working on the project. So this will be one of the focal points for that, as well as a senior contact point. So the person who is leading the project. So information about them so that WeGO knows who to liaise with. Then basic information about the project proposal itself. So obviously the project will have a title. It would be focused on a certain smart city area, as well as what stage the project is in. It could be at the beginning, it could be already started, and then things like the budget and so on. One important thing is obviously the challenges that you're facing in the city. So kind of the background behind why you're choosing this project and how much you've invested as a city in, up until now, who the stakeholders will be, as well as the solution. So it's obviously very important for the city to have a solution in mind in terms of what you want to achieve with WeGO and the funding and the support that we give you. As well as how it links to your local and national development plans and other projects that you're doing in the city. Of course, the outcomes that you are expecting from this project with WeGO are very important. And then, of course, one of the most important things is to achieve citywide implementation in the end. So how you expect to scale the project. Under support, we would need to know what the city can do on its end, what kind of data it can collect and that we can analyze throughout the project, as well as how much city funding you have already allocated to this type of a project. And then, of course, it's very important to have the commitment from leaders. So from the mayors, the governors, et cetera, those leaders of the city and to make sure that they have a commitment to this project so that we see it to completion. Now, after you have done all of that, you submit the application at the top right there, and then that goes to WeGO, and then we review with our external committee all of the applications that come to us. If we go back to the dashboard, we also see the solution finder. Now, as you saw in the video, this is one of the 3 components of the driver. So in addition to the project implementer, now let's say we get a lot of different applications for the project implementer. Obviously, we cannot help fund them all. So for those that don't receive the funding, this is particularly important for them because it helps find different partners that the city can work with so that we can find some solution to the challenges they're facing. And you don't have to apply to the project implementer to also apply for Solution Finder. Any city that is looking for solutions in any area, in any project, at any stage of the project are welcome to fill this out. So when you fill out this application, it's just one page first that you can multiply select the different smart city areas that you want projects in. So obviously you can do more than one. Here we have a few selected. And then when you click next, you get to a page. It starts with the first one, so public safety. And when we click into that, it's just one page about the urban challenges. You fill out just a basic summary about it, who the stakeholders are, who you're working with, how much you've invested, where those investments come from, and so on. And then you do this for each of the different areas that you've identified. So lots of different questions there. And then you do it for the others also. When you're done, you click the submit application, and then that again goes to WeGO. And at any time of the process, if you ever want to review your application, you want to make edits to it, you can just contact us and then we can reopen that for you. So again, this application focuses more on the challenges. You don't necessarily need to know what the solution is yet. This is what we help you with. So if you are if you know what your challenges are, but not necessarily sure of where to go from there, then I think this solution finder is perfect for you and your city. Now, if we go to Activator Plan, that's the second button at the top. This is something that we're now developing. Right now, you can see that you can add a project. Ideally, this will be, in the long term, a place where you can start your project planning. So let's say you are starting from scratch. The usefulness of this form is that you can go in here and you already know the different metrics and areas of information that you need to know at which stage to move forward in the process in a proven way. So when you fill out the basic information, the system will then know what kind of information to then spit back at you through data analytics, visualizations, mappings. So when you put in certain data, the system is going to show you what's relevant from that data. It will give you a good big picture of what you're missing, who the stakeholders are that you've put in. There's a stakeholder map that will show, and you can see all of these kind of things when you plan your project in Activator Plan. So this will be a very important tool for data visualization and analysis, and others, multi-stakeholders can actually input in this project plan too. So when you start a project, then different divisions can also work on it through the Activator, which I think is going to be very important. Another thing is Activator Exchange. So, Activator itself, whenever we say Activator, we're talking about a platform. You can think of it kind of like an intranet for members. So for all of you cities who are members, you already have full access to this Activator. And then we just have these different components like the plan and Exchange. Discover was the first one. That's where you apply for things. Here's Exchange. When you open it, you can see a repository of all the projects that were submitted, not only through WeGO, but just through general research and through our partners. So we have over 480 different projects around the world that you can see here with a kind of big picture about those projects. And if you can go to the left, you can also filter. So if you want to see, for example, all the projects within the Philippines, why don't we click that one? We'll see that there are 5 projects total in the Philippines, including, of course, the one from Kawaian City that we'll talk about today, and then some others. So this is going to be very useful. It already is. If you want to do some research into what kind of projects are out there, you can benchmark. You can look at the successes and the failures. We don't sugarcoat things in this database. You get to see everything. as well as the contact information of those project managers who were in charge of these projects. And in the long term, we will also have information on the solution providers that also worked on these projects. So you can get in touch with them directly and also through WeGO. So that's a kind of big picture about the Activator, as well as the different components of the driver. So you can always contact us for more information on this, but please do feel free to go to our site if you want to learn more about the different components. And also, the most important thing is coming to these types of webinars where we get to actually sit and talk with you about how to do this one-on-one. I want to also ask a reminder to everyone to please mute when you're not speaking, as well as keep your cameras off if you are not a presenter. We only have 2 presenters from the Philippines and from Kampala. So if you are not one of those, then please turn your camera off for the sake of everyone else. If you have more questions, you can go to our website, as I said, and then our contact person for this is Miss Sophia, and she is the person who is working on this. I don't want to take more of our time, so let's go straight on. We have 2 presentations from 2 cities today. We're going to be walking through their project proposals that they submitted through the Activator for the project implementer, so for funding that they receive, as well as the matchmaking with different partners. So we will start with Mayor D, who will talk about the integrated digital twin of Kawaian City for resiliency. But just to give a big picture of Kawaian City, they've been a member with us for about 5 years. They've done many things with us since then. They showcased their online food bank project in 2017 at the WeGO Awards. They've also participated in our WeGO Executive Committee meeting last year. And we had also a WeGO Washington, DC Smart City Roundtable that was talking about resilience that the mayor also was at. And then, of course, the feasibility study and pilot project under the project implementer will all start next year on this project that will be presented now by Mayor D. So I now hand over the floor to you, Mayor D.
Thank you very much, Albert, and to our Secretary General of WeGO, Secretary General Kyung Lee. Nice to see you again, sir. To my co-presenter, Sir Martin from Kampala, and to all the participants of this afternoon's webinar on Smart City Driver. Pleasant afternoon, and mabuhay from the city of Kawaian here in the Philippines. I'm Bernard D. I am the City Mayor of Kawaian City. And Kawaian City is located 365 kilometers north of Manila. And we're a very highly agricultural city. We're 150,000 or about 140,000 population. We're very rich in rice, corn, and tobacco. And we have a land area of about 43 square kilometers. Again, we really take pride on how a small, poor and agricultural city was able to evolve as the Philippines' first smarter city. Next. We've been doing Smart Cities project since 2015 in collaboration with the Department of Science and Technology and the Academe, the Isabela State University. Following this framework, developed by the DOST are smarter healthcare, farming, MSMEs, industries, jobs, government, climate change, adaptation, scientists, and engineers. Next. When the United Nations launched the new 17 Sustainable Development Goals, Kawaian City took the lead in localizing these goals, which we call Labing Pitong Hamon sa Bawat Kawayanyo, or 17 challenges for every citizen of Kawaian, where all plans and programs of the local government unit are aligned for the achievement of these global goals. Next. So the Smart Cities project and the localization of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals have opened opportunities for Kawaian City to build partnerships with different international organizations and stakeholders. Next. The most significant of which are the Smart Cities Council and the Smart Cities Network through its ever-supportive and hardworking chairman, Mr. Kok Chintai. This partnership has supported us in many ways, from providing technical assistance, including a training on how to use the Smart Cities Project Activator. Next. Yeah. Project Activator. Next. This training has greatly helped and guided us in the submission of our proposal for the Project Implementer 2020 for the creation of the integrated digital twin of Kawaian City for resiliency. Next. The Philippines in general is among the typhoon-prone countries, and Kawaian City is not exempted to that. In a year, we experience about 7 to 10 typhoons, which have left or which leave severe damage in our city, in our infrastructure, agriculture, and the community. This is just a summary of the amount of loss that we suffered from the 7 typhoons we experienced in 2019. To address these challenges, the Digital Twin Project offers the following proposed solutions. A wide, again, can you go back, sir? Yeah, to provide a wide area Internet of Things, IoT sensor network to a digital twin dashboard. Next is the citizen engagement, where citizens' feedback and responses are captured and evaluated. And finally, an internet-enabled city and national resiliency networks of nation and Kawaian CDRM offices. Next. These are the main objectives of the digital twin. Establish a smart communities in Kawaian City with representatives from all departments of the Kawaian City government. Develop the digital twin of Kawaian City with a dashboard with the important information and integration to a select few CCTVs of the current command and control center. And finally, to conduct train the trainer workshops for city stakeholders and the CDRM staff to leverage the smart infrastructure development. Next. The anticipated period for this project is 1 to 2 years, with a budget of 43,000 to 92,000 US dollars. The city has allocated 10 million pesos budget for our smart city project. And should there be needing for a local financial support for the digital twin project, we have appropriated budget for that as part of the smart cities project. Next. So it is with gratitude to thank WeGO for choosing Kawaian City to be beneficiary of the project implementer. We are excited for the plans in store to realize the objectives of this project, not only to address our issues on disaster resiliency, but to provide the best of public service to the people of our city. Next. Before I end, I would like to leave an inspiring message that smart cities are not only for metropolitan big cities. If it can be done in a small, poor, and highly agricultural city such as Kawaian City, then there's no reason for other cities not to do the same. So for your questions and collaboration, you may reach us through these contact details. And again, I thank you for this opportunity and looking forward to more collaboration with WeGO. Thank you and good afternoon.
Thank you very much, Mayor D. That was very compact and informative. You actually went quite quickly, so we're going to take a moment and slow ourselves down a bit and go back to your project so that we can kind of digest it with everybody and make sure we all understand. For everybody's joining, we all know that this is a workshop. So the idea is to really delve deep into these two projects that we're talking about today, because they may also give some insight to other city members about the projects that they have, especially if they want to apply for the project implementer in the future. So just thinking about the main objectives, maybe we can go back to that slide. The main objectives of this project, one of them is to establish smart communities. And so this is kind of on a sub-municipal level, I'm guessing is what you mean. Have you defined what smart communities means for you? Or is it true? Do you mean districts and these types of things, or?
Yeah, in our case, we call it barangays, or it's a smaller cluster of the city. So for example, our city, Kawaian City, has 65 barangays. So we have already launched and encourage all the barangay captains or their little mayors in their barangays to establish smart barangays. So these are the things that we want to highlight, so that it's not just the city on a city level or the local government level that's implementing projects and programs or smart projects and programs, but also the barangay. So we've really empowered our barangays to be as innovative, as creative, and as efficient in implementing their own smart barangay projects.
Great. Yes, so citizen engagement is always something that we are looking at, and I think that would be very important when you're going forward and looking at how to involve these smart communities, not so that they're all kind of scattered, but obviously that all of them are working toward this digital twin of Kawaian City, that they are all contributing something to this overall picture. And then you're talking about, in the third point here, conducting train the trainer workshops. CDDRM, did you clarify what that meant?
The CDDRM is the City Disaster Risk and Reduction Management. This is the office in charge of the disaster preparedness of our city. And what we do is engage the public by giving them trainings to teachers, to barangay workers, to students, to be able to really engage them and equip them with the necessities or things that they need to know on facing disaster preparedness.
Okay, so when you do that, of course, you already know, but to identify what digital skills are very important in those workshops, I think is going to be very key. Also, who exactly within the staff? I mean, I'm sure CDDRM is a very big concept, but in particular, which staff need to know which digital skills? I think that would be quite important. If we go to the next slide, you were talking about 10 million pesos for smart city projects. Just for the listeners on the call, can you say what that is roughly in dollars, US dollars?
In dollars, it's about 200,000 US dollars.
Okay. So the city, of course, could provide details on how the project has secured funding from this fund, and also whether there's funding from outside sources. How have you put together this fund?
When it comes from our my annual budget, the mayor's budget, as a donation. So it's allocated at the start of the year as a smart city project.
And do you have some clear information to the public about how they can tap into this fund? For example, for other types of project stakeholders and so on?
With regards to our citizen, we have what we call a Kawaian City participatory budget that also has an allocation. That's where our citizens can propose for funding for projects that they deem that can fit into whether it be the smart city innovation or anything to that sort. But we also have to add on to the previous question. We have external funding for smart city projects that we get from the Department of Science and Technology, who has been a staunch supporter of our city's initiatives on smarter cities.
Okay, so that's just about the project details itself. Obviously, we also want to make sure that the project is linked to the bigger picture. And for that, we always recommend phasing projects with strict timelines to show how we're going to use the resources that we have available in different chunks. And of course, that's always something that we collect information on when we get I have a question here. By the way, everybody is welcome to participate. This is, of course, an open workshop, so we want people to participate. Please do put in your questions in the Zoom group chat. If you click to the right side of the screen, wherever you're viewing, you can open up the chat and you can just type there. Make sure you're typing to everyone so that we can see it. And then there will also be a Q&A at the end. So if you don't get your questions answered now, or if you happen to have questions later on, you can always ask them. And if you're watching on YouTube Live, which we also have broadcast there, then feel free to type them there. And I think somebody will also check to see if there's some questions coming there. One person wanted to know, before I go ahead with some more points from our side, about the role of citizens. I don't know if there's a specific question, but what are the role of, maybe you can just talk about your perspective about what the role of citizens is in this whole project.
Well, the role of citizens really to be to absorb and to really cooperate with all the things that we will be guiding them. Again, the digital twin will be about helping us, giving us the proper tools for our plans and programs that would benefit the citizens. So definitely the citizens would really have to understand, accept, and also take part in identifying these plans and programs using all these tools that will be provided by the digital twin.
Thank you for that explanation. Back to the phasing part that I was starting to talk about. For those of you who are aware about WeGo's feasibility studies and pilot projects that we've been doing this for about a decade now, but the project implementer is kind of the repackaged, better version of what we've been doing over the past decade. And the biggest difference I would say about the project implementer is that it focuses on a larger commitment from the city itself to make sure that we get to citywide implementation. We obviously don't want to have a situation where we get, where we put money in and we find the consultant and the solution provider, and then we get a nice pilot project and then nothing happens after that. Obviously, I think no city wants that to happen. So citywide implementation is always our goal. And to achieve that goal for this particular project, WeGo has worked with Kawaian City to phase the project. So the first phase is the one that WeGo will be helping to fund through the funding that's available through this project implementer. And it's going to focus on installing a digital twin dashboard. And that's going to be linked with the existing CCTV system. So for those of you who are trying to get a better picture of what the actual technology will be that's implemented in this, that's what that's going to be. I also want to know though, if this is this project is being reflected in the city's long-term smart city development master plan, whether you have something like this in Kawaian?
Yes, certainly we do. And definitely, once completed, the digital twin city took the major part in updating our comprehensive land use plan that we have in place. So this definitely has a major impact on our city's planning.
I want to also make sure that I keep the questions from the audience going. So some more coming in. One is asking you about what kind of smart city you consider to be more important than others. Are there, maybe just thinking about your own approach to smart city development in Kawaian City. Can you maybe explain a bit about what kind of smart city Kawaian is trying to become?
Well, we're trying to follow the framework of having a smart city community. I don't know if you can go back to our frame earlier. I think it was the third or fourth frame where we showed how the DOST or the Department of Science Technology has helped us in trying to address these key roles in doing the smart city. So the framework that we have, I think you can go on the third, was it? The third, there we go. So among all of this, it's equally important. I wouldn't say one is more important than the other, because they should and they all are intertwined. Again, we cannot set aside smarter farming because we're an agricultural city. Also, smarter jobs, smarter industry, smarter MSMEs. I think they're all equally important to us.
Great. I think we're getting a little bit of noise. I don't know where that's coming from. Is it your side, Mayor D?
Yeah, it's
okay.
Someone that's announcing their plate number. I think it's blocking the driveway.
Good that you're on it, though. That's one of the features of a smart city, is an unblocked city. Talking more about partnerships, obviously it's very important to make sure that we link international stakeholders wherever possible to these projects. One of the functions that can be taken by these partners is to promote, of course, Kawaiian's vision. So it's always good to see what kind of partners can work with you on promoting the vision, as well as this project that's being undertaken. And WeGO is one of the partners that can help you do that, as well as the partners that we have within our own network, but also stakeholders that can help build the capacity of staff to implement and monitor the project as it goes forward. And then also, of course, partners that can help you identify and apply for different funding opportunities that are available out there. I mean, WeGO is also doing this, of course. We are looking always to see what kind of funding is out there, but it's always good to check with other international partners who can look at it from different angles. So that's one of our suggestions. For some examples, you talked about, for example, the Smart Cities Council, SCC, that you're working very closely with, and they're helping train your staff on how to use the Activator. That's great. And SCC is also can do that with other cities that are on this call, that they're helping with us very closely on this. But then also SCC, I think, could even help to look at what kind of funding opportunities are out there, and then to support you in advising how to approach those. Another one of our partners is called Metropolis. We're in the process of getting an MOU with them. And they have an annual pilot project challenge. And this is where selected cities are funded to partner with other cities. It can be within the region or across different regions, and they can bounce their ideas back and forth to develop their own projects. So that's another kind of avenue that we can always look at in international partnerships. We just have a couple more minutes. I want to make sure that we get all the content in there. So if you're asking more questions, please keep doing so. But just so you know, because of coronavirus, everybody knows, a lot of things have been delayed. So that's including the project that we're doing with Kawaian City. So we're still working with Kawaian City, and next year we plan to have the solution provider that's going to develop the dashboard for risk management for the city for this project. That's what we're doing now. We're looking for the appropriate company for that. And then in the meantime, I think Kawaian City could be looking into what kinds of firms locally or internationally you could partner with for consortiums, that you can already start thinking about how to work with these firms for citywide implementation. I mean, the end in sight is always what we need to have for these types of things. So I think that would be very important. One of the examples is, again, going back to international partners. So there are a couple that we work with. One, Fireware Foundation, for example. They're a network of solution providers. So through this kind of a network, you could actually pitch this project. Even though the project is something that's already being supported by WeGO, you can pitch it to these types of consortia or networks that can then look at this as a business opportunity for their own constituents. And then they can also even help with identifying other partners that can help you on this. Let me just check to see if there are any other questions on this before. There are not. So with that, I think Mayor D has to disappear for a second anyway for something else. He's very much in high demand, which is no surprise to us, but he will be back. So if you have questions, please continue to ask them and we'll get to them at the end. Thank you very much, Mayor D, for all of that. And without further...
Too?
I'm sorry?
Do you want me to disappear too?
Of course not.
Oh, I should be here?
Yes. If you have any questions, feel free to ask questions yourself also.
Thank you.
So we are now going to move on to Kampala City, which was the recipient of our last feasibility study and pilot project last year. So we will have Mr. Martin Sekaja, who is the Deputy Director for ICT in Kampala. So the floor is over to you, Mr. Sekaja.
Thank you so much, Graves. I also want to thank Mr. Chong for the leadership, and I also want to thank Honorable Bernard. Your title in Kampala would be Your Lordship or Your Worship, Bernard. So, but in your country, I can see that you're called honorable. So I want to welcome everyone that is on this webinar. From Kampala, we're quite a number also. There's Agnes, there's Jimmy, and there's Charlene. So just to give you a brief introduction about Kampala. Kampala is the heart of Uganda. It's at the heart of Uganda. It's the capital city of Uganda, located in East Africa. And the objective of the smart city, the objective of this presentation is basically to give you a highlight of what our project was and our participation. Next slide, please. So anyway, this photo is how Kampala was in 2011. It has a lot changed since then. We'll share a better, a new Kampala, but this gives you an origin of how to associate with Kampala. It is a green city. It is by the lakeside. It is fast developing. It has a very high population increasing. So allow me to go to the next slide, please. So Kampala is administered by an entity called Kampala Capital City Authority. This authority is a body that is corporate for administering Kampala on behalf of the central government. So Kampala is under the administration of central government. And it has both wings. It has a political wing where we have an elected Lord Mayor and all his other political leaders. We also have an executive director who is responsible for the technical administration of the city, and she's appointed by His Excellency the President of Uganda. And all other directors are also appointed by His Excellency the President of Uganda. I bring you greetings from my executive director, newly appointed. She's been in office for 2 weeks, called Madame Dorothy Chisaka. She will, as Dr. Jennifer participated in WeGO, we shall brief her about WeGO, and I'm very sure she will be very instrumental and participate in WeGO. So our vision is to be a vibrant, attractive, and sustainable city. We're trying to revise our strategy. Within a week's time, we shall have a new strategy. The vision might a little bit adjust a bit. The mission is to provide quality services to the citizens of Kampala, and our current theme is towards a smart Kampala. Next slide, please. So this is just a brief highlight about Kampala. Kampala has a depopulation of about 1.5 million people and a depopulation of 4 million people, and it has residents of 1.5 million people. Our current growth rate is at 5.2. It contributes 60% to the GDP, Uganda's GDP. By 2040, we expect to have about 40 million in Kampala and the greater Kampala. So Kampala is bordered by a number of other districts or municipalities that we call the greater Kampala, but it is the smallest amongst all of them. And we hope that by 2040, we shall be having what we are calling greater Kampala, and where the projects are underway to ensure that we go beyond the thinking of Kampala, because the problems that affect Kampala normally come from the neighborhood. Next. So in 2014, that was our smart city roadmap. We tried to break it down into something that we were able to achieve in the next 5 years. The first segment or first layer on top had what was required to have this smart city. What were the necessary requirements to have this smart city? That's why we had to focus on IT infrastructure. For example, the various premises that we do have, did they have the adequate resources, the computers, the field computing, and the like. The other thing we needed was the networks. We needed to ensure that we had a very reliable network. We've since upgraded our network to over 50 times what it was, because the demands and needs have changed. In Kampala, Kampala is mainly covered by 4G of all mobile networks, and there's already a pilot of 5G. from some of our telecom service providers. We do have a 3-tier data center. It was necessary for, and also a backup data center to ensure that we do have systems uptime all the time. And of course, we needed supporting tools and equipment, including centralized printing, including web infrastructure and the like. Now, when we do come to the next layer, it was a mechanism, a medium through which we would deliver these services. So we needed to work on our online self-service so that citizens could access their services electronically. We had a contact center which had everything that is required to have communication. Citizens call in freely or send their requests freely, no matter which framework they use, whether mail, whether calls, whether anything. They call in and get a service as soon as they call in. We've also seen this has been helpful during the COVID pandemic because we've been having mothers. We locked down, but we did have mothers that needed service. We had patients that needed service, so we're using the contact center. They would only call in and would follow up with ambulances or our medical teams. The face-to-face, we segmented different groups. We have premium services where we do handle high-level or high-volume clients. And then the other layer were the different applications that we're working on. In that strategy, we successfully achieved the smart payments because all payments are digital for the Kampala fees. And that has been very helpful using mobile money, point of sale, and online banking and the like. Smart education, we partnered with the private sector, so they've been able to produce some academic content for the citizens of Kampala because most of them are low cost. They fall in the category of urban poor. Smart planning, we've just recently finished development of the various permits, about 14 of them, including renovation permits, development permits, and the like, occupancy permits, and the like, so many of them. We'll be launching this in a short while, probably before the close of the year. We'll be launching, but it's already online, and it also has to do with house numbering and addressing of the city. When we come to smart communities earlier had Honorable Bernard talk about the smart communities. Here we're looking at the different groups that we have in Kampala, the social fabric. We're looking at the youth, the women, the informal sector, and the like. We've not done so much under the previous project, but we intend to take this going forward. In transport, we're looking at smart mobility, and we've had quite a number of projects under smart mobility. Next slide, please. So what's new in the current strategy? In the current strategy, we have 6 pillars. We have the smart economy, where we are planning to facilitate re-engineer processes for our different sectors or players in the city. For instance, business economies, the businesses that we have licensed to have value-added services to the citizens. So we want to provide more value in terms of the economy. Then we have smart people who can access services. They have the capability and capacity to access all services. We want to empower our people, no matter which category they fall in. Smart governance, we are talking about transparency and accountability. Smart mobility, we're facilitating smart parking. We are facilitating smart transport and everything to do with mobility of goods and services. We have smart environment, where we do want to help in climate change, put measures necessary for climate change. For instance, air pollution monitoring, noise pollution monitoring, and the like. So we want to have a smarter way of handling that, and smart living. Next. So in the field of smart mobility, the project that we did apply for was in the field of smart mobility. And under that, we were looking at smart transportation, we were looking at smart navigation and incident reporting, and also smart parking. Under smart transportation, we want to put in place a movement of goods and people with ease. One of our biggest challenges we have in Kampala is movement, a lot of traffic congestion, which affects businesses. So we hope that we can, we've been working with the private sector. If you've heard about border borders, these are motorcycles that move from one end to another. They've been entirely digitized by most of our private sector. We've recently made some policy adjustments in the public transport in terms of process reengineering. We registered all public transport operators, assigned them routes and stops, and there are digital companies that are already working on that. Smart navigation, we've already addressed all buildings in the city. We have about 380,000 properties that we've numbered and houses, and we've already integrated with Google. If you go to Google now, in terms of navigation, you could search by house number, and it will give you precision of about 5 centimeters to the location that you're going to. So it's no longer just inaccurate information available. So we do have this available for Kampala. Smart parking is a project that we did apply for because we thought that this was a pain to many people in the city of Kampala. They could hardly find parking. For some of you that have visited Kampala, you could hardly find where to park in the city. You could find mismanaged parking. And we thought that it's an area that we could help because it also has other objectives that we do want to achieve under it. Next slide, please. So specifically, this smart parking is to help us reduce on traffic congestion. We do have a lot of vehicles that come in the city and rotate and navigate around without finding parking and eventually leave without even getting a service. We also want to improve access to parking by reducing user costs related to delayed parking. We also want to facilitate navigation by providing vehicle users with possible shortage routes. We also want to improve overall security of vehicles parked in the city, and also to increase revenue because it's one of our revenue income generating sources that we use to administer the city. Next. So if you could allow me to, the current implementation falls under, we could share this slide, I think, for members to just get more other information. But basically what we're trying to do under here is we're trying to communicate is that we do have a greater Kampala Metropolitan Transport Master Plan that we are using to implement things that the different initiatives for public transport. We do have a framework for mobility management and intelligent management system, including new parking system. We also have support from various stakeholders, including JICA, in terms of setting up a traffic control center. In fact, we do have a pilot control center for about 14. Now there are 19 traffic junctions, so we can remotely manage them. And we do have a smart city strategy that we've just worked on, prioritizing smart parking as one of the projects. Next. So Kampala has been, like we earlier indicated, has been a member of WeGO, and we are happy to be part of the big family. We joined when there were fewer cities. Now there are more cities, and the list is just growing. And we were able in 2017 to win a silver award. And we did write a proposal for a feasibility study, which we successfully got. And that was to help us in terms of a unified parking platform. The objective was to seek funding for a technical feasibility study to increase the number of strategic and funding partners for the project, and also to get it right before committing resources, time, and budget. Next. So Kampala's experience has been, under WeGO, has been enlightening, and it's been good to learn from the various cities. We are happy actually to learn about the driver. It will help us shape our strategy. We're going to also apply for the Smart City Advisor. So we're glad to be a part of this. And very importantly, we want to thank you for sponsoring the feasibility study, which we implemented with SR Post, a Korean company. I want to inform you that the pilot was successful because it was a rigorous exercise. We had to put up a very serious bid, and we did put up one. WeGO was able to identify a service provider, SR Post, using a rigorous process as well. And SR Post was able to come to Kampala. We designed the system, the system implementation, and we've been able to implement it. And it was also launched to the public. The public were excited about the project, and they were expecting us to scale it up to their benefit. So allow me to go to the next slide, please. So this is basically how the system looked like, and that is just a sample of the installation site. We did have the SR Post implemented some hardware that was necessary based on their country, based at Seoul, and some hardware based here in Kampala. And then we did integrate it with the current infrastructure, and using wireless communication, we were able to install the cameras that we've been trying to connect to. It would actually give you parking slots. What you're seeing down there is just one of the cameras trying to monitor the parking slots. So if a vehicle was driving in, it would easily identify a parking slot, and it could actually, we could tell that it is occupied. Next slide. Yeah, so the kind of technology that we chose to have this implementation was based on the resources available, and also we wanted to test how effective, because if you have, we have about 6,000 parking slots in the city. So we wanted to see the most appropriate technology. We tried to use wireless because we thought it was easy. We'd put it on the street lights and send this communication using a given network, a wireless network. But we've had issues with the implementation. So we had some lessons learned because it was affected by the weather. And because of our ecosystem, we have a lot of green here. We have big birds, marabou stock, that actually enjoy eating cables and any kind of infrastructure put on what. So you have to install some sort of electrifying equipment, or you have to fence the equipment that you do have. So we did have a challenge with that. We also had a problem with the system design. We wanted this to be more front-end based. So we want the users and citizens more involved in terms of redesigning the next system. And of course, we had a problem with limited funding. But all these we've learned, and they give us, because right now we are working on terms of reference to still improve this, but based on this feasibility study, we have comfort. We've comfort that we can do a much better job. Next slide. So the next steps is one, redefine the terms of reference, identify suitable technology. We have more coverage now because we have more fiber connecting to the city center. We are seeking for more funding partners that can work with us in order to achieve this. And of course, the staff capacity is also a problem, because every time we've had a problem, we've had to call our colleagues in SR Post in Korea. They've had to get remote access to the system and the like. So we wanted to build more capacity as we develop a solution, so that we do have local capacity to support on nitty-gritties to avoid long back and forth. Next slide, please. I thank you. You can still also contact us on www.kcca.go.ug, or if you can also contact us by mail or any of those other social media platforms. I thank you and have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sekaja. And of course, Kampala has been a very important member of WeGO since 2017. And as Mr. Sekaja already said, they won actually one of our awards, the Silver Awards in 2017 for their project on revenue modernization. and this is in the Cooperative City Project category. So we have different categories for the awards. And in the last few years, they've also been very active in different capacity building programs, including in Korea, in Seoul, with our Global Leaders Summit, but also in Chengdu in China, which is where our East Asia regional office is. And of course, this feasibility study is the latest in what we've been doing with Kampala City. So just to give a bit of feedback, maybe to some of the points that you made, if we go back to the next step slide, maybe that's the most important place to start. You had mentioned that suitable technology is something that is one of the limitations of the project here. I'm just wondering, have you been able to identify any other available technologies that are out there that you could counter propose? Have you done any benchmarking on what kind of suitable technologies there could be?
Thank you so much. Yes, we've done some benchmarking, especially for technology that can suit within our context. Technologies such as we've been in Cape Town. We've done a study at Cape Town because Cape Town has almost similar attributes than like what we have in Kampala in terms of the environment. So what they've done is that they do implement different terminals. They have sensors installed, but which sensors are dust proof. They're also weather resistant, and also can be based on a field-based terminal. So once a vehicle registers or logs onto a given area, a sensor sends notification to a given terminal within reach. So we think that might be more feasible. So we've tried to make other studies in terms of parking administration. And also we need to empower the interface on which citizens are so that they could actually also have more input, or we send notifications to clients.
Great, and it's great that you have already done some of the research. WeGO can also obviously help you on researching more about those types of projects, those types of technologies to benchmark. And then just about, you were mentioning also about the budget. Of course, that's a problem for many different cities, but also when you have a large administration that's dealing with different budgets, it can get complicated, obviously, with the legal and institutional frameworks. So the budget and the task allocation, I think, by the division and the different agencies within the local government could also be identified before you even get to the part where you try to implement on a citywide scale. And maybe in relation to this, I want to ask a question that we have from the audience. Basically, this does talk about Kampala's autonomy as a local government. So they're saying that KCCA, which is the Kampala City Authority, is a unique city administrator given its affiliation with the central government. So of course you have a unique relationship with there. And they want to know how this has impacted your ability to implement smart city projects or other types of ICT projects in Kampala. Would you say that this has been a challenge?
I don't want to say it has been a challenge. First and foremost, it was a sort of new phenomena from them. You know, most cities do have a lot of politics in them, and technology has always been a value addition to delivery of services. And especially if you can sensitize the users about the benefits of the technology that you do have. So the biggest challenge we normally do have is with the resistance from the users as you bring up technology. One, they fear it's going to do away with their jobs. Secondly, it affects some power centers in terms of, bureaucracy. So it does require great and inspirational leadership. In the past, I remember for us to make a breakthrough, we had initially registered when we were developing the revenue administration system. It was beautiful. and simple. It simplified life of the citizens, but the users or the administrators at the time found it difficult to implement it because it was going to do away with some of their controls and personal, maybe personal involvement in the processes. But at the time, the executive director did appoint someone who was nonsensical, who came and had to drive that project. And once it came into implementation, it became very successful. We've been having similar challenges because as a city, you have a diversity of services to offer. We've still been having some challenges again, but over time, once you consistently communicate to the citizens, to the users and the citizens, it becomes more valuable. As long as they see value, they are eager to take on the technology. So the other critical limitation is again what we call sensitization. Many times as we do implement projects, we undermine the budget on sensitization. We tend to think that users will appreciate and move on, but sensitization takes a lot of time. Where you expected to take 1 month or 2 months implementing a project, it might take you 1.5 years because you need to promote, get visual effects, simplify the solution. That's one of the challenges and one of the solutions that we are trying to identify for we have a number of new projects that we are yet to roll out, but the biggest problem is actually sensitization. And the new leadership, I'm happy we have very supportive leadership. The new executive director has promised to and also given insight on how to promote some of these products and give them value. Yeah.
Yes, and you're of course talking about when the project is already done, but then obviously that's also something to consider is about training staff within the government to use these new technologies. And so that also requires maybe getting personnel with certain expertise in certain areas like system management. That's another budget issue that has to be considered. So one of the suggestions that we could also offer is partnering with organizations that focus on capacity building, and then maybe they can also help with this regard so that you can cut costs there. And we of course have a similar working relationships with other partners, just as we recommended to Kawaian City, like for example, Metropolis, that could be helping you with that kind of a thing. And then about international partners, I noticed that you talked about JICA, which is the Japan International Cooperation Agency that does a lot of types of projects in other countries. And they are helping you with Traffic Control Center. I'm wondering, have you looked into ways to kind of scale this up or combine it with the project that you did with WeGO?
Yes, we're already planning to integrate it with WeGO. The challenge we usually have is some partners come with predefined technologies. For instance, in traffic management, they are mainly took known technologies. There's Siemens, there's Moderato. So what we do is integration at a given layer. But yes, we do have integration plans, and JICA is actually promising to work on more than 60 junctions in Kampala, which will be a major uplift in terms of traffic management.
Great. And I also want to say that we also work with the different networks like the FMDV. If you haven't heard of them, they're the Global Fund for City Development. This was established under UCLG, which is the United Cities and Local Governments. So we have partnership with both. And this type of regional network is also very useful in helping to fund these types of projects. So I know that you've also worked with AFDB, the African Development Bank, as well as KOICA's office in Kampala. KOICA is basically the Korean version of JICA, but there's many different partners that you can work with through WeGO. And this being a project that has already gotten off the ground, we would also suggest working closely with media outlets. I think it's very important to get, I mean, you're doing all this work in the background, spending all of this money and investing, and if people don't know about it, then what kind of credit will you get for it? So it's very important to push the kind of PR around this so that you can generate interest, and also from the citizens, I would say. We have one question that from the audience that I'll ask before we move on to the actual Q&A session. This is to you. So do you have any online decision-making platform where citizens can participate in city fairs, including smart city projects?
Thank you so much, Graves. And I find it challenging to pronounce Graves. Albert seems easier. So Albert,
please,
I think,
Albert. I've never been called Graves.
Albert, Albert, it has been very insightful to actually meet you and engage you over this platform. Thank you for the various suggestions. Our team from Kampala is registering. I hope we can actually get this recording as well, so that we can follow up with a number of recommendations that you're making. We're extremely delighted that you actually have given us such insights. Getting back to the citizen support system, again, one of the WeGO members, Esara Post, we were able, through WeGO, again, we were able to get sponsorship for something called a citizen participation system. And that system has been designed. It is almost getting ready for deployment. We've been working with the Esara Post. I think it's because of this COVID-19 again that we've had constraints in terms of project implementation, but by now we'd have already finished it. But it is at the final stages. What that system is going to help us do is to help citizens participate in some of the decisions that we do make, is to file complaints, is also to have a feedback mechanism, also have an algorithm within the system that can respond to some of the very quick solutions. We've been designing it and customizing it to fit our clients. Hopefully by mid-2021, we'll have this system functional. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And about the recording, this whole webinar is being recorded. So for you and everybody who's tuning in, you'll be able to watch this. We also have it on YouTube, of course, too. So please subscribe to that if you haven't already. So now we're at the Q&A session of the webinar. So questions will be given to both Mayor D and Mr. Sekaja.
Since it's technically over the time that we promised, just to wrap up, we want to thank everyone who has been here for our workshop. Just so everyone knows, we are planning a second or third workshop continuing this one that we just concluded. The second workshop will focus on finding strategic partners for the Kawaian City and the Kampala City's project proposal, while the third one will focus on finding financial partners. We are currently seeing whether or not these two workshops can be part of our upcoming executive committee meeting in November. They will share our updates with you through our SNS channels and website, and as well as emails. Thank you again for your participation, and all recordings will be available in WeGo's website. Thank you, and I hope you have a nice day.